So the shutdown is over. The shutdown is dead. Long live shutdown. It'll probably be back in a couple of weeks or whatever. But for now, we don't have it. And it looked coming out of it like the Democrats clearly beat Donald Trump in that he didn't get the wall funding that he wanted. He didn't get anything over and above what the budget would have allowed for if we had not gone through more than 30 days of a shutdown. And obviously, people who oppose the president were very happy about that. But even people who generally support the president had to acknowledge that he had failed in this case. And he does not like being criticized. He doesn't like it at all. And so-
But humanity prevailed. That's the thing.
On the part of just the right wingers, you're saying?
Like, people get to go back to work.
Yes.
Paid, and then the racist wall is not a thing, at least for another 3 weeks.
Yes.
So.
We get almost a month of not spending literally billions of dollars to drive little stakes of steel into the border for thousands of miles. So that is good. It is certainly a win for humanity,
yes.
But it's a loss for Trump. Those things are often diametrically opposed. So Fox News had a little panel, and John Roberts was on it, and Jillian Turner, and they were talking about a couple different aspects of this, and Donald Trump didn't like it. So here's what he said while watching this panel on Fox News. Never thought I'd say this, but I think John Roberts, Fox, and Jillian H. Turner, Fox News, have even less understanding of the wall negotiations than the folks at Fake News CNN and NBC. Look to final results. Don't know how my poll numbers are so good, especially up 19% with Hispanics. So that is detached in a couple of different ways. So first of all, they are doing an analysis of what the ongoing negotiations are gonna be like. And he entered the shutdown in a weak position. He left it in a weaker position. The idea that suddenly things would flip for the next go round is not impossible, but it's certainly not something one would expect. And so it seems ridiculous to say that they're getting ahead of themselves in this particular case. Also, if your poll numbers were looking so good and were improving so much, why is it that you finally caved on the shutdown? And so I get it, he's not really responding to them. He is vocalizing what he wants the narrative to be so that those who still support him will see him being strong against these traitors on Fox News.
Right.
But some of the things they were talking about that might have set him off is John Roberts acknowledged that Pelosi seemed to win in this case. Also, perhaps more damningly, John Roberts pointed out that the shutdown made us less safe in a number of different areas, undercutting the idea that the shutdown was instituted to protect national security.
Right.
When it comes to the safety of our flights. Jillian Turner talked about our vulnerability to foreign cyber attacks. Now the shutdown set us back on that as well. And then said that the president fell on his sword, which he then had to look up what that analogy means and then was offended by it.
Of course.
Yeah. So the thing is, honestly, for the past 2 years, Fox News has been a very safe space for Donald Trump. They were not initially all on board with him during the primary. The five used to sort of mock him a little bit early on, but as he became more and more sort of an inevitability, they did switch over to supporting him. And since then, there's not been a lot of critical voices like Shep Smith generally, and not really a lot else. So I wonder, is this just them sort of acknowledging reality? Or is it that now that he has started to actually fail politically, like this is his single biggest, I think, defeat since he became president, other than perhaps the midterms, but this is directly him being defeated. Have we sort of turned a corner with the right's willingness to criticize him, or is this a one-off?
I think it's a one-off. It's John Roberts. So I think that maybe the president didn't know that John worked for Fox. I think maybe it's his first time watching.
Yeah, that's
think,
possible. Yeah, and Jillian Turner, I'm not actually very familiar with her. We're gonna get to Ann Coulter in a little bit because he's been criticized from a lot of different angles. Now, in an interview at the Wall Street Journal, he talked a little bit about how he sees this whole thing playing out. And for those of us who didn't like the shutdown, thought it was an awful thing, in particular for the hundreds of thousands of workers who went without pay for over a month. He at least wants you to believe that he's ready to do this again. So asked if he would accept less than $5.7 billion in the next round of negotiations, he says, I doubt it, adding, I have to do it right. In the interview, Mr. Trump said he wouldn't rule out another shutdown, calling it, quote, certainly an option. Although, does that mean anything?
No, because all of that kind of like contradicts itself. I don't know. So it just kind of says he doesn't know, which I don't even understand why this temporary fix, like why he even felt like he had to do this. I'm glad that he did.
You mean why did he end the shutdown?
Yeah.
Why did he end the shutdown?
Right. I mean, if he feels like, oh, it's certainly an option, we're gonna go back to asking for the same thing. It's ridiculous. Why be back in the same position 3 weeks from now? And it's ridiculous. I mean, come on, let's just end this and move on because Pelosi and her crew, they're not backing down. And I suspect that if the Senate voted on like something permanent, if the Senate voted, that his bluff would be called and he would be like, I don't think he would veto it.
Yeah, if they did like a more permanent funding of the government, not permanent, but you know what I mean,
yeah,
more of the year, possibly. So we were talking about this before the show, and the idea that after the defeat in this last go around the shutdown, he would jump back into it again seems nonsensical. I mean, why would you do that? It's not going to work out for you. But that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But that does not mean that we more on the left won't get screwed here. That is certainly still a possibility. I just don't think. What do you mean? Well, so the idea was going to be that we were going to be screwed because he was going to start a shutdown. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer would cave, and he would get his wall funding. That was the flavor of defeat that I thought we would suffer. It is still possible that we will be defeated, but not in another shutdown, in the negotiations that are going to happen. Now, the idea that they would spend billions of dollars on a physical wall seems a little bit harder to believe. It would be harder to justify coming out of their victory in the shutdown fight. But that doesn't mean that they won't do some sort of big spending of money on border security that I would say is gonna largely be wasted money. It also doesn't mean that if the Republicans do put some sort of like permanent protections for the Dreamers or something like that, that it's not impossible that they'll fund the wall.
That makes sense. The problem is that, the wall, it's a symbol of something that this country is not supposed to be. Is not supposed to be about, and I think they're fighting for that too.
On the right, you're saying?
On the left.
What do you mean?
Like fighting against
this
wall that symbolizes America is just going to dig into this racist, being this super racist, awful country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth the battle.
I certainly think so. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons we've been covering as much as we have. And also, Nancy Pelosi's getting a ton of credit for having defeated him here. The easiest way to eliminate that and to, in the end, be perceived as a loser would be to, in the end, give him that wall funding. And so I'm hoping that she is relishing in the fact that her approval rating is higher than it's been in over a decade, that she is seen as a strong leader right now. Were she to give him billions of dollars for a wall, I think that would evaporate, and I don't think that's what she wants going into her second tenure as Speaker of the House. So one other angle I did mention, Ann Coulter, immediately after he announced that the shutdown would end, she tweeted, "Good news for George Herbert Walker Bush. As of today, he is no longer the biggest wimp ever to serve as president of the United States. This should be irrelevant, she should be irrelevant, but we live in crazy times, and she is some sort of informal advisor to the president on immigration."
So wait, so are they fighting? Is he not answering the phone?
They are fighting.
Is that what's happening, like behind the scenes?
I hope. He said in that interview, "I hear she's become very hostile. Maybe I didn't return her phone call or something." So this is what's interesting about him is she apparently had some influence over him going into the shutdown.
Right.
She was talking to him, telling him you need to do this. Once she actually goes against him publicly, he is thin-skinned enough that I think that actually evaporates her influence to some extent over him. Once she willingly opts into the enemy category, I mean, it's not like he's so attached to his positions on the issues anyway.
Right.
I think he's willing to set fire to those and say, you know what, she's opposed to me now, I'm gonna try to destroy her. I don't know for sure that's gonna continue, but that seems consistent with his psychology. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. I like that for once he is taking a bit of a break from attacking people on the left and instead turning his fire on Fox News. I doubt it'll continue, but that would be a nice change for America.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But
thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.